share some of their favorite one-liners with you. But tonight we're doing something a little different. We went around and we asked some of our Vietnam veterans and their families, including some of our audience members who are here tonight, like Lloyd Barnett. We asked them what they remember the most about their time and their loved ones' time in Vietnam. And this is what they said.
Vietnam, it wasn't much fun, to say the least. During monsoon season, it would rain for months and months. I didn't think the time, that 12 months, would ever be over.
My friends, oh, they meant everything to me. I worried about my friends like I did about myself. They were there to back me up, and I was there to help them. If you don't have friends in a combat zone, you don't have anything.
When my husband came home, he brought the war with him. I tried to be understanding. I knew it wasn't me he was fighting with. I knew he was still fighting that war. But after a couple of years, I found it unfair that I was always fighting that war too. I tried counseling for the sake of our son, who was still pretty young. But some things get so broken, they can't be fixed. We divorced. We were better apart than together. He remained a part of our son's life, and I still loved him. But relationships are more than surviving the fights. And wars don't only affect the soldiers.
That's just one of those segments of my life that I just put it in a closet and shut the door. If you don't think about it and don't have to deal with it, then fine.
Daddy was a picture, cared for and held and treasured. I didn't know him until I was older. I only knew him through his handwriting and the Polaroid snapshots he would send through the mail. I knew the uniform more than I knew his face. When he came home, I ran to every soldier who got off the bus, reaching out to each one, saying, "Daddy? Daddy? Daddy?" Until the one who was my daddy, who had a snapshot of me, reached down, picked me up, and held me. He said, "I'm your daddy. It is so nice to meet you." I said, "It's nice to meet you too, Daddy. I love you."
Heart problems. That's what comes to mind. And lung problems from the Agent Orange, that defoliation agent. It was supposed to be used to save our lives, but a couple of decades later, it's costing us.
I wanted to be a nurse. I always wanted to be a nurse. I took nursing classes while I was also in high school, and I was able to become one shortly after graduating. I went where I thought I would be needed most. I joined the Army to be a nurse. And what do I remember? Well, everything. After my duty was complete, I didn't re-up. I stopped being a nurse. I stopped a lot of things for a while. I didn't see combat, but I saw what it did. I'm going back to school again. I want to teach history, so maybe we can learn from it.
As a young guy in Vietnam, as a private, I took orders, but I ended up making it a career after Vietnam. As a staff sergeant in Iraq, I gave orders. It was a lot easier giving orders than taking orders for me.
You know, I can understand that. Well, coming up next is a segment we call I Remember. And tonight, Linda Poland has a story that fits right into our Memorial Day and Veterans theme.
They told my daddy was too old to go to Vietnam, but he wanted to be part of it. He was teaching photography, combat photography, so he went to Vietnam 3 times. He was in the thick of it, only with his camera. He had no gun. And he brought home one lens that used to be about that long, but had a bullet that went right through it. Yes, he had been in Vietnam because he did not like the way they were treating the flag back home, stepping on it, spitting on it, burning it. It wasn't the soldiers' fault. Now, if you'll go forward with me, after my father had been in the wars and he was retired and he still loved the flag. I remember when my dad used to go to many stores in our area here in Johnson City looking for a flag. He was very particular because he wanted a flag that was 30.5 inches high and was made in America. That wasn't too much to ask, he would say, to have a flag that was made in America. I didn't think it was. One of my favorite things for my dad to do was take and walk around the cul-de-sacs in his neighborhood with his big dog named Reb. He was walking the dog one day and went into a cul-de-sac, and there was a yard that had flags all around the perimeter stuck in the yard, and he really was proud to see that. And he walked over there. And as he looked at the flags, there was something that was not quite right. So he bent down and plucked one of those flags up out of the ground and was holding it in his hand when the front door of the house swung open and a man came bounding out to him and said, "What are you doing?" And my dad flashed him one of his Tennessee Ernie Ford smiles and said, "I'm just admiring your yard. You're very patriotic, aren't you?" And the man just beamed. He was completely disarmed by that smile. My dad held the flag in his hand and rolled it back and forth and looked at the man and said, "There's only 47 stars on this and 12 stripes." The man looked puzzled, and that's when my dad realized that he didn't know the correct configuration of the American flag. And he tried to be tactful, and he said, "These are nice flags, but these are not American flags." And the man got very defensive and said, "Sure they are. I bought them right down the road at the big box store. They were right where all the Memorial Day decorations were put. Sure it is." And so my dad started a history lesson with him. You see, my dad knew the flag. Back when, you might remember, they taught the history of the American flag in school. And he also knew the flag because he made it his business to watch the American flags flying over different places that had been captured and brought back to the Americans. He was given an award for covering the very first American flag on Japanese soil when the war was coming to the end. But that's another story. He looked at the man right in the face and he said, "You know, the American flag should have 50 stars on it because currently we have 50 states. It should start with a red stripe and end with a red stripe. 7 red stripes, 6 white stripes, representing the 13 colonies that rebelled against the British. That's the correct configuration of the American flag." Well, the man he just didn't know what to say. He was a very tall man too, and he said, "Well, I can't believe I've been ripped off like this. Right in my own town. I mean, a flag that's not even made in our country, you say." And my dad pointed to the wood that had engraved in it, CHINA. The man was just furious, and he said, "I don't know what to do." And my dad said, "Well, I believe in standing up and telling people if something's not right." And the man said, "That's what I'll do. I'll take these flags back to the big box place and tell them that they misrepresented me." And my dad smiled, and he said, "That's a good thing. Don't just be upset when you think you're being ripped off. Check it out. Because, you know, all of us old codgers are disappearing at a very rapid rate. And pretty soon there won't be any of us left to tell you that you're being sold a fake. So make it your own business to check out things and make sure they're right. And remember this Memorial Day, all of you veterans and all of you families that made such sacrifices, that this is a very special day, more than a picnic. God bless you. Thank you."
Thanks, Linda. This just shows how important one little moment, one little gesture can be. Our next story is all about a small little gesture and how it just might make a difference.
It just isn't fair, sending you for a second time. You're not a kid anymore.
Don't worry about this, old man. I'll be home for Christmas.
Your orders are for longer than that.
Then I'll be home for Christmas after next. Christmas in 68. Save it for me. Kim, come here, sweetie. Stand with Mommy. Let's get a picture before I go. And you, don't go get married before I get back.
Daddy, ew.
You're not allowed to grow up till I come home. You promise?
Promise. Wait, what if I lose a tooth like last night?
Well, maybe a few teeth. Don't want you to miss out on the tooth fairy, but no molars. And you, don't you change a bit. Stay just like this and stand right here when I come home, and we'll start up again, exactly here.
We won't be able to start right here. Too much will change. The next time we're together, we'll have a bigger family after this baby is born.
They're here. Come on, Pumpkin, and you save Christmas for me. Promise?
Promise.
I promise too, Daddy.
I gotta go. I'll be home for Christmas.
Promise me you will?
That was my family. My dad didn't keep his promise. He spent 2 more Christmases away in 67 and 68. He was in Quy Nhon, Vietnam. Around November of 67, a refrigerated ship pulled into port. Dad and his buddy, Bobby Noble, had the task of inspecting the ship. Infractions on refrigerator ships are magically fixed with the supply of turkeys and steaks. Dad and Bobby found enough infractions to provide a feast. They didn't bring the food back to the other guys. But wait, it's not as bad as you think. My dad was a Catholic, and there was a Vietnamese priest there, Father Paul. He spoke English, and Dad would go see him sometimes. Father Paul ran the orphanage. Dad and Bobby took the food there, so the kids who usually got nothing but rice every day could have Christmas dinner. In fact, it was enough food for several weeks. They made it up the hill to the orphanage and were met by Father Paul.
What's this?
Magic turkey. Give me a hand.
How's wife and daughter? And the new baby?
No baby yet. It's due in a couple weeks. Maybe it'll be a boy this time.
Of course, they're talking about me.
When you're here, you come tell me. We celebrate with steak dinner. I saved this one for you.
Will do. I gotta get back to my unit. Merry Christmas, Father.
The orphans and Father Paul had a real feast that Christmas. I think I told you that this was 1967. A few weeks later, January 1968, was the Tet Offensive. Dad's unit was getting hit from all sides. It was one of the largest military campaigns against the forces of the South Vietnam and their allies by the Viet Cong and the North Vietnam People's Army. The Viet Cong had surrounded the village, even came to the orphanage gates. Father Paul held them off with nothing but a .38 caliber pistol. The Viet Cong soldiers saw him defending the children and left the orphanage alone. My dad survived the offensive. He went up the hill to check on Father Paul.
It's good to see you safe, Father. I heard you had visitors.
I held them off with pistol.
With that rusty old .38?
They will not come onto property without a fight from me. Come, I'll show you why.
Oh, I know, Father, the children. I told you before, I can't bring any of them home. I just had another baby 2 weeks ago. The Red Cross couldn't find me. I just found out today. What a world to bring a kid into, huh? So you don't need to show me.
Look downhill.
That's my unit.
The Viet Cong thought, and my dad thought, that Father Paul held off the soldiers to save the children. Father Paul knew the Viet Cong wouldn't hurt the orphans, but he also knew that the orphanage sat on a hill with a clear view of Dad's unit. The Viet Cong could have completely wiped them out. My dad had been kind to the orphans. Father Paul wanted to return the kindness so Dad's children wouldn't be orphans too. For every small gesture of peace, a miracle happens.
We had a deal. I saved steak to celebrate birthday. Boy or girl, what name?
Girl. She doesn't have a name yet. They're waiting on my reply. We've tossed a few names around. I'm supposed to write back.
What will it be?
I think we're gonna name her after her mom. She's strong and tough.
She will need that in this world.
Things have to get better.
One day, there will be peace.
That's my prayer, Father. Let there be peace. Hey, watch it. Don't burn the steak.
How much longer are you here?
I've only been here 2 months and you're ready to get rid of me here? Well, I'm ready to get rid of me here too, but not till February next.
So, one more Christmas with you. I must say, we'll miss...
Now, don't get sentimental on me here, Father.
I was about to say, I will miss the turkey and steak.
Which brings us back to where we are now. His second Christmas away from home. Christmas of 1968. Actually, it's a bit past Christmas, but my family didn't care. And they didn't care how the neighbors talked about them either, as they fixed up the house up for Christmas in February.
Mom, the Battens are weird.
Sweetheart, don't call people weird. It isn't nice.
But they are. They still have Christmas lights on their house. When I was playing with Kim, they still had a tree up and presents underneath. It's Valentine's Day almost. That's weird.
It's not weird. Kim's dad is not supposed to get home from the war this week, and they want to save Christmas for him.
Well, Janet, that's just weird.
Hush, and help me wrap this up.
Mom, these are Christmas cookies. Oh no, you're turning weird too.
All the neighbors are baking holiday cookies. When Kim's dad gets home tomorrow, the Battens are having a holiday party. We're all invited. You too.
Okay, that's not weird anymore.
The neighbors, no matter how weird it seemed, pitched in for our Christmas in February. Meanwhile, my mom was trying to get the house ready for the party and ready for my dad's homecoming. And with a baby and a 6-year-old, it wasn't easy.
Kim, pick up your shoes. I want everything perfect for when Daddy comes home.
When does he get home?
Tomorrow, so we have a lot to do.
Can I see his picture again? I keep forgetting which soldier he is.
Here. Remember now?
Oh yeah, thanks.
You still have to pick up your room.
Meanwhile, a day early and at the end of our road, our neighbor, a Jewish woman who insisted we call her Miss Barbara instead of Mrs. Drucker, sees my dad walking.
James, is that you? What on earth? I thought you were getting in tomorrow.
Well, I took a military hop, got here early, caught a ride to the end of the road.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I'm just getting my bearings. It's been a while since I walked down this road, since I seen my family's faces. Haven't even seen my baby ever. Just getting it all together.
Sure. Well, take your time. You can pace all over my lawn if you want. I'm just so glad to see you. Oh, I have something for you.
She ran inside and lit the menorah candles in her window.
See, James? Do you get it? Do you get it?
Sure. Thanks, Barbara. Sure. That's weird.
Captain Bennett, you're home. I'm so glad.
Thanks, Alice. It's good to see you. You always make me feel welcome.
Hey, Captain Bennett, I thought you weren't getting in until tomorrow. You need a lift? You can hop on the handlebars and move Schwinn.
No thanks, Kurt. Just enjoying a quiet walk down our street. Well, maybe not so quiet after all, but in a good way.
Barbara got on the phone, and Kurt rode his bike alerting the neighbors, letting everyone know that my dad was home. House by house, as my dad walked down the street, was starting to light up with candles, Christmas lights, and Miss Barbara's menorah. Every house, except ours. They had let everyone know, except for my mother, who was still getting the place ready. She was wearing his old jeans with the cuff rolled up and a bandana holding her hair back. She was up on a ladder hanging balloons and a big sign that said, "Welcome home, Daddy," when he walked in.
So, while I've been in Vietnam, you've been throwing parties?
James? James? What are you doing here?
We saved Christmas for you just like we promised.
Oh my goodness, it's really you.
I think so.
Don't you want to open your presents, please, Daddy? We waited so long.
And who's this? Hello, little one. I'm your daddy. I'm so happy to meet you.
Look, it's all the neighbors.
What is all this?
Nothing much. Some potato latkes. A Hanukkah specialty at my house.
And I've got some gingerbread cookies.
I brought over my world-famous apple kuchen, Oma's recipe.
I still don't understand.
We don't know what you've been through, James, but we're so glad to have you back. I wish we could do more compared to what you've been through. This is just a few small gestures. Nothing worth changing.
Barbara, the world changes with one small gesture. Mine has, at least. Thank you, everyone.
Happy Hanukkah!
And Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year, 1969!
Welcome home.
And to all our veterans who might not have heard this when they got off that 15 hours flight from South Vietnam to Fort Lewis, Washington, who arrived in Dallas or Chicago or New York. Whenever you arrived, wherever you arrived, we would all like to say to you now,
welcome home! We're so glad you're here!
welcome home, and thank you so very much. That's all we've got time for this month. We hope you can join us again next month, and don't forget to tune in on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on WETS to hear Jonesborough's original storytelling radio hour, A Night with the Yarn Exchange.
And thanks to our sponsor, Mountain States Health Alliance.
And thank you to our listening audience.